The Arizona sun hammered the highway that day, a brutal, unforgiving glare. I was hauling recycled paper, the kind of job that blends into the background, in my Kenworth, somewhere between El Paso and Tucson. The desert stretched out, endless and indifferent, a vast, thirsty maw. Then around a bend I saw him, an old man, practically clinging to the edge of the blacktop, looking lost and adrift. He was a ghost, dusted with desert grit, his hat lopsided, his eyes hollow. I nearly missed him, but something, a gut feeling maybe, made me brake hard, back up and climb down. "You all right, friend?" I asked, my voice rougher than I'd intended. He looked at me like I'd pulled him from a nightmare. "The bus," he rasped. "They kicked me off, said I was yelling, but I don't remember. 1 minute I was in Phoenix, next thing I know..." He trailed off, his confusion palpable. I got him some water, a pinch of salt, a wedge of lemon. He drank like a man dying. Of thirst, each swallow a prayer. "Thank you, son," he whispered, his voice thick with despair. I thought I was done for, left to rot like a stray dog. Logically, I could have left him at the next gas station. But something held me there, a connection deeper than reason. In his weathered face, in his ragged breaths, I saw my father. He'd been gone 2 months, a stubborn, hard-headed man, more argument than affection. But now, in his absence, I understood. Fatherhood's a tough gig, a balancing act of love, imperfectly expressed. The old man looked a little calmer now. "What's your name?" I asked. "Aurelio," he said, a flicker of pride in his voice. "Mr. Aurelio, if you please. But my wife, she called me old crazy." Fondly, of course. He cracked a small, tired smile. In that moment, the vast emptiness of the desert seemed to shrink. "Hop in, Mr. Aurelio. I'm not leaving you here. Forget the load. Forget the schedule. This matters." He climbed aboard slowly, with a dignity that belied his circumstances. He settled in, adjusted his hat, wiped his eyes, and looked at me with an almost sacred gratitude. I'm no angel, just a son missing his dad, seizing a chance to do things differently. But what Mr. Aurelio told me later, well, it was beyond anything I could have imagined. We drove in silence, a comfortable silence, steeped in shared understanding. He gazed out the window, as if seeing the world anew, pointing out the details, marveling at the mundane. Even the prickly pear cacti seemed imbued with a sense of sacredness. "Look at those, son," he said, his voice hushed. "Like soldiers, steadfast, silent but always standing." I just nodded. There was something about him, a quiet wisdom that made me want to listen, to let his story unfold. It felt like he was speaking from a forgotten corner of my own soul. And then he started to tell me his story. I was a history teacher, you see. 33 years in front of a blackboard. I loved it. But after Carmencita passed, everything started to unravel. My memory, my spirit, my will. He paused, searching for a memory that seemed to be hiding. My bipolar diagnosis is a roller coaster. Some days I'm golden, others I'm a ghost of myself. And when that happens, people just don't get it. They think I'm nuts, they vanish, my kids, they pretty much write me off. Listening to Don Aurelio's story, I saw my own father's face in every word, the same quiet struggle, the same awkward attempts at love. He'd lost touch with his daughter, Mary. He went silent, then pulled a crumpled scrap of paper from his shirt pocket. Her number. "San Diego," he mumbled. I called, twice, nothing, left a message. The doubt hung heavy as we drove on, but my mind was made up. I wasn't abandoning this man. That night, near Barstow, we stopped at a tiny roadside store. I bought piloncillo, cinnamon, coffee, the works. Brewed it up on my little camp stove, the rich aroma of café de olla filling the air. For a moment the world stilled. Don Aurelio sipped it, closed his eyes, a whisper escaping his lips, just like my Carmencita made it. with piloncillo. And love, tears welled. Mine too. That coffee tasted like childhood, like those early mornings with my dad. He never said, "I love you," but he warmed the tortillas, shared his coffee. That was love too. He took my hand. "Miguel," he said, "you don't know what this means. It's not just the food, it's that you saw me. Really saw me. That's rarer than hen's teeth these days." Right then, I knew I was exactly where I was supposed to be, not just hauling recycled paper, but picking up the shattered pieces of myself. And though I didn't know it then, the next day would bring a surprise that echoed the unspoken love of my own father. First thing at dawn, I called again. This time a voice answered, hesitant. "Hello? This is Mary, Don Aurelio's daughter." A beat of silence. "Who is this?" "Miguel, I'm a trucker. I found your father dehydrated, lost in the desert. He said you lived in San Diego." Her voice cracked. "Is he alive?" "Yes, Mom. He's safe. He's with me." A long, drawn-out sigh, like a ton of bricks had been lifted. I thought he was dead. He disappeared over a year ago. We searched everywhere. I thought I'd never see him again. Suddenly, I saw the other side of the coin. It wasn't abandonment. It was agony, utter despair. She explained that after his mother passed, Don Aurelio unraveled. Angry outbursts, confusing ramblings, disappearing for days. Once they found him asleep in a park, his soaked trousers clinging to a precious teacher's portfolio. She gave me an address in Bakersfield. We agreed to meet the next day, noon, by the church plaza. That night, John and I bunked down in the truck again. He wouldn't call his daughter. Said he wanted her to see him, feel him, really know him, not just hear his voice cracking over the phone. I tossed and turned, replaying every harsh word I'd ever thrown at my old man. How many times had I dismissed him as a grumpy old goat when all along his heart was a battlefield of unspoken hurts? The next morning, I parked a block from the town square. John, moving with a quiet dignity that belied his weariness, walked beside me like a grandpa carrying invisible wildflowers. Then I saw her, red-rimmed eyes, clutching a small boy, maybe 7. Seeing us, she gasped and ran straight into John's arms. It was a hug that transcended words, a torrent of tears, a silent reconciliation etched in every trembling embrace. The little boy edged closer, shyly. John knelt, producing a smooth white stone he'd found on the road. "Here, son," he said, "a little something the road gave me." I stood back, choked up, watching a sacred moment unfold. His daughter turned to me, her eyes glistening. "Thank you, Miguel," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "How can I ever repay you?" "You don't repay it," I said. "You carry it forward." Before we parted, John looked me straight in the eye. "If you ever have a son," he said, his voice gravelly, "and he looks at you the way you looked at me today, you'll know you did good." That's when it hit me. My father wasn't perfect, but he was a damn hero. Later, sitting in the square, his daughter offered gas, food, even money. I refused. All I asked was to visit him sometimes. "Any time," she replied. "To my dad, you're family now." Those words landed like a punch to the gut. Family. A word that always felt foreign. Growing up in a house where affection was scarce, communication was barked, not spoken, and my dad's feelings were etched on his furrowed brow more than in his words. Back in the cab, the engine rumbled to life. The road was the same, but I wasn't. Every song on the radio was a memory. Dad teaching me to change a tire, yelling about missing tools, ladling out steaming beans after a long day's work. He never said, "I love you," but he waited up every time I left before dawn. That night I parked in a desolate spot. It was freezing. I sat on the bed of the truck, sipping strong coffee spiced with piloncillo and cinnamon, just the way Dad. It taught me. And then I felt it, his presence, not in a ghostly way, but in the warmth of the coffee, in the whisper of the wind. For the first time, I spoke to him. "Old man," I said softly, "I get it now. Your love was different, rough around the edges maybe, but real. Forgive me for not seeing it sooner." The dam finally broke. Tears streamed down my face, a flood of years finally released. Your quiet dignity, your unwavering kindness to those in need, you never explicitly preached it, but you lived it. That night, for the first time since he died, I slept like a log. Weeks later, I found myself back at Harmony Creek. Old Fitzwilliam, a weathered oak of a man, greeted me with coffee steaming like a desert mirage and warm blueberry muffins. He was doing better, his daughter was getting him help, and his grandson finally embraced him without fear. But you, Michael, weren't forgotten. I tell everyone I meet about the trucker who pulled me out of the desert, a desert of despair. Each time I visit him, he gives me a smooth stone. He's got a whole box full of them. Each, he says, represents a piece of pain that's finally healed. And when you leave this world, you'll take the brightest one. Your journey, too, deserves to shine. That forgotten man on the highway taught me how to remember, forgive, and find gratitude. I returned to Harmony Creek over the next few months, not out of duty or guilt, but because I needed to. He wasn't just a sad memory anymore. He was woven into the fabric of my life, like those roadside trees that grow into shade-giving giants. One visit, he invited me inside. His humble home was adorned with old photos. One showed him as a teacher, surrounded by students in worn uniforms, their smiles genuine and bright. He confessed what he missed most wasn't the classroom, but the feeling of being heard, of truly connecting with another soul. My words came unbidden, straight from the heart. You left a deeper mark on me than all the miles I've traveled. We sat on the porch, the air thick with heat, but a gentle breeze kept us cool. He brewed his best coffee, piloncillo, cinnamon, and a whole lot of hope. And we clinked our mugs together like they were crystal goblets, talking about everything and nothing, about time, forgiveness, the power of genuine eye contact. Before I left, he gave me a gift, a perfectly smooth white stone, wrapped carefully in cloth. This, he said, was for me, not for saving myself, but for saving him. His hug was strong, the embrace of someone who knows time is precious. And if you ever have a son, Michael, teach him this. The world is broken, but there are people who pick up the pieces one by one. I climbed back in my truck, my eyes still damp, started the engine and drove on, my heart lighter than my load. And though nobody knows, I always slow down when I see someone on the roadside, because you never know when you'll meet someone who doesn't need a ride, but a lifeline, a voice, a moment to be seen. Loved the story? Hit that subscribe button. You won't regret it. There's a whole world of tales out there just waiting to be uncovered, and I'd love for you to join me on this adventure. Consider a small donation. It's like sharing a virtual cup of coffee and helps keep this show on the road. Thanks a million for your support. And speaking of adventures, next time we're heading to Arizona, where a chance meeting on a dusty highway throws two lives into a whirlwind. Get ready for a wild cross-country ride filled with laughter, tears, unexpected friendships, and a whole lot of self-discovery. It's a story of resilience, hope, and the amazing strength of the human spirit, one that'll stick with you long after the credits roll. This one's a real doozy.